Hello and welcome to episode 75 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jeff.
And we're your source for weekly Drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just two regular dudes drinking some irregular beers and talking about Magic the Gathering in particular, their online client, MTG Arena.
That's right, and this week is our first Sips of New Capenna episode. One of my favorite types of episodes, just like every type of episode.
Classic.
So we're just going to get into some of our first sips or first thoughts of the set and kind of go from there. Also, we have our Worth a Slot segment, our world-renowned Worth a Slot segment.
Yeah.
But first, each week we both bring a beer, we drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic, and choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, so we are picking up where we left off with our takeover of Third Moon Brewing Company. This is our tap takeover. And this time, decided to up the ante. So we tried their porter last time. Now we're going to try their Imperial Chocolate Porter. So I'm hoping for bigger, badder, more chocolate. This is called From Underneath. It's an Imperial Chocolate Porter at 11%, and it has I don't know, is this supposed to be a zombie? It's hard to tell with the art style because the style is kind of like cross-hatched shading kind of thing, but I think it's supposed to be a zombie coming up from the basement.
From underneath. It's like a sketch, but this person or zombie thing has extremely long leg and long arm, as well as extra joints in the arm. It's very unsettling.
It's definitely unsettling.
Great, more scary looking beers.
Great job, Yard Wolves.
Yeah. We have some Magic news. The set is finally released. We have Explorer, now the new format, live on Arena. It has been fantastic. This is always the best time of any Magic life. I don't know. The beginning of a set is always really exciting. So being able to play with new cards and a new format is especially wonderful. I did want to talk about this, Jeff. I didn't write this down, so I don't know if you saw this. Have you seen or listened to the official Streets of New Capenna soundtrack?
No, this is the first time hearing of that.
So Wizards has had some musical influence in some sets at certain points. In Call Time, they had a bunch of like metal bands preview cards and stuff. I don't know if they did this for Neon Dynasty. I think they had a couple songs that were written, but this one has a real official soundtrack where they like commissioned artists to write songs for it, and I listened to it, and it's nice. Go check it out. It's on Spotify and all the places you'd think it is. It has very much of like a show tune jazz kind of feel. So very.
I would expect, that's what I would be expecting.
So, but yeah, cool, weird, like just like a hey, oh by the way, we did this, and it's just kind of just a cool thing that's out there in the world.
Yeah, that's one of those awesome things that if you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. So it's all upside.
Exactly, and it doesn't cost anything. Hooray! Mm-hmm. Well, for us, they paid the artist, which is wonderful.
Right,
that's what we like.
I like when they pay artists.
Yeah, it is nice. Jeff, do you want to jump into this next segment to just?
I've been thinking about that. I've been waffling on it, but I think it's really best to let you handle it.
Oh man. Wah, wah. This segment's called Zach Fucked Up. Oh no.
I haven't had one of these in a while though.
Yeah, but it's always me. It's never you. It's always me.
That's probably not true. I'm just not accountable enough to own up to it.
To make a whole segment. Yeah. So earlier when we were talking about Obnixilis or Mobnixilis, before we played with the card, I was fairly certain that when you made a copy of Obnixilis with Casualty, you were not allowed to, you can make a copy of that token copy that you have with the Seeker's Chariot. However, it will immediately die, having 0 loyalty. That's not the case. You can have more. You can copy it, and it will have I think the number of casualty it had when it came into the battlefield. So
right. So it is important to note it is that. So casualty is like a copyable ability or something. Wizards kind of wrote a little bit about it. So if I sacked a creature with power 2, that's how much the token will have. It won't have however much it happens when you copy it. So it's not like if I work it up to 4 and then I attack with my Seeker's Chariot and copy it, it will have 4. It'll still have whatever it had when I could cast it.
Started it, yeah.
But it also doesn't have 0, so that's why we're seeing a lot of Jund decks.
Yep. Which is a great time to just kind of jump into things, or Jund into things. Streets of New Capenna. How do we like it? What's going on? What's it like? Feel good? Feel bad? Let's get into it. Jeff, what are your first sips of this?
Yeah, first sips, I'm loving it. So I haven't really jumped that much into Constructed yet. I'm just sort of playing just to get a feel for it more than really wanting to. Like, it's one of those things where sometimes I feel like a set could go either way for me. I'm drafting because I know I'm supposed to, and I'm like, oh, but I kind of want to play Constructed, but I feel like I should draft. And this time was a bit different where I was like, I kind of want to draft, but I should at least play some Constructed so that I, can talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
So usually that's a good sign for me. So I'm just loving the limited format, and yeah, I'm letting the Constructed pan out maybe a little bit, but so far I wouldn't say there's anything too unexpected that I've run into, but Constructed's been fun too, like just lots of different viable options.
Yeah. Interesting. I think my first sips are a little different. I think coming right into this, as always, the launch day took forever, which is a fairly normal thing. So anyone who was like, oh, a new set comes out and it's all screwed up. Yeah, that happens every time. The Thursday
it's not usually quite this long, is it though? Because I got off work and then tried to draft, so that must have been like 6 p.m. or something.
Yeah,
our time.
I think it was supposed to go live at 11 our time in East Coast, and then it didn't really start working until like 7 or something, 7 or 8. So It was a long time, but we are used to having downtime, so that just usually just kind of expect to play on Friday. But in any case, I got fucking wrecked. Like, I have drafted a lot, and boy, was it just like banging my face against a wall for a long time. It took a lot of work and focus to get a little bit better, which I feel like I'm kind of coming out of the hole I was in, but I did come down to the end of my gems, being like, well, this might be the last draft I can do, and I'm just not going to have any more gems. I guess I'm going to be screwed now. Which is not usually my experience, so it's been a little rough for me. Though it's still fun to play with new cards. I apparently originally liked all the bad ones.
Yeah, I've been doing pretty well in draft, but I think a large part of it is that I had let my draft rating decay, so I was bronze, and then I worked myself up to like gold, and then the reset happened, so it shot me right back down to bronze, and then now I'm like just starting to work my way out of the early tiers again. So you never know with that kind of thing whether your success is because you have a decent handle on the format, or if you're just playing sort of against, you're not really playing in the correct tier for yourself yet.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is fun to play some of the lower tiers. It does make me feel like I think I'm a fairly solid like gold platinum player. Like sometimes I can't, like even in draft, I'm like, I'm just not getting out of gold. Like what's going on? But it also depends on the draft format, depending on which one it is. If it really clicks or not, can drastically change whether I'm able to do well, which I think it's fairly normal. I don't think everyone is like amazing at every format. Sometimes they like kind of link up with what your play style is, and sometimes it's like, nope, you got to do the opposite of what you're initially thinking. So kind of go.
And I like sort of getting to learn the format in the lower tiers where losing doesn't cost you as much because you don't actually lose any tiers. Mm-hmm. I have found that a couple of times when I had to do this fighting out of bronze thing, I developed some bad habits. Like I thought certain cards were good because they were being really effective for me, and then I stopped winning in platinum, and I had to like realize that card is not good, and I should stop taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard. But I think what I have kind of landed at is that it seems like white feels pretty good,
Hmm.
but it's mainly because flyers are very strong. And
Yeah.
I have lost the most to flyers and have quickly realized that I need to make sure all my removal goes to whatever flyer they're going to play later because I'm just going to get hosed by it. So it's like common white flyers and the common blue flyers are the ones that are just going to kill you.
Yeah, I found the same thing that I've found myself wanting to be in Azorius because I think both Bant and Esper have been pretty good for me. So that's the Brokers and the Obscura in terms of this set. And so if you start out in blue white, not only do you have decent commons and these good flying creatures, you can splash your way if the opportunity's there into what I think are the better like shards
Yeah.
families, I guess you might call them in this set. Like I've found Brokers to be quite strong, and then Obscura is pretty good too. And huge part of that is literally just what you're talking about. Let's get some flyers down. Let's put some shield counters on them or some +1/+1 counters. And it's like very difficult to race.
Also, being able to get into white and blue lets you connive, and conniving seems a lot stronger than I originally thought.
Yeah, connive is very good. It's always fun to like, am I going to discard the land or the spell?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you feel bad discarding a land, but then you're like, well, no, wait, I actually just drew a card. Pretty much, that's pretty good. Like, I don't necessarily need the counter.
Yeah, and sometimes it's great. Like Rafine's Informant, it's the white 2-mana 2/1 that connives when it enters the battlefield. But that immediately being a 3/2 is big because you're just like, well, I'm gonna trade with your 3-drop or whatever if your opponent seems to be going slow or something. You don't just get like stonewalled by a stupid citizen token or something. So
Yep.
playing as many of those as I can find tends to be great, especially when if you're trying to get to another color or like a third color. Having something that connives on 2 is really helpful to find your fixing.
Yep, for sure. And I would say in general, that's kind of the approach I've been taking, is to try to get into one of these 2-color pairs that gives me 2 options for my shard, and then sort of going from there, right? Like, while you can do the thing where you take all the dual lands early and all the, obviously the tri-lands if you see them, you can do that and you can end up with these like 5-color good stuff decks, and I've done a bit of that. I've found myself preferring to do a 2-color deck that maybe splashes.
Yes, I definitely agree with that, where being focused on just 2 colors and maybe you have a splash of like a charm or one of the legendary creatures or something feels a lot better, especially if your splash is a more expensive card. Or even just like the common fixing creatures that like you pay the 2 to exile it to make one of your lands play it becomes really great because you're like, oh, sick. Well, it will play itself. I don't always have to even worry about getting the land in there because I can splash for this thing and it's great.
Oh yeah, and the Brokers one, by the way, is like just legitimately really good. It's just like a 4/4. For 5 is already not that bad, and it just has all the upside. And then is it like a pseudo pacifism, a 1-turn pacifism?
Yeah.
And when it enters the battlefield, it's just like very good.
Because it's good if you're attacking through it, or also if you're behind, because it can stop their flyer from attacking.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, oh, there's nothing they can do, and they just drop this. Okay, it's like I'm gonna block that thing, and then that thing can't attack. And you're like, okay, well, I guess that bought you a whole turn from one card.
Like, damn. Just like the Esper one, the Obscura one, which is the 4/4 Angel that gives you a bunch of life, and you're like, oh, sick. Well, I can negate one of their attacks, and then now I have a 4/4 flyer, and it's gonna kill them. So
for sure. Yeah, so that'd be my broad advice is like try to get yourself into one of these 2-color pairs that can go into two different families. So white blue being the best one, but I've also really liked green white. It's totally fine to go into Cabaretti. Like shoot for Brokers, and if you miss, you get Cabaretti. It's like not the end of the world.
Yeah,
I've done some red black obviously, because I'm obviously going to do that. But I haven't liked it as much as the other 4 options for your sort of two-way, two-color pairs. Unfortunately, I enjoy playing Maestros a lot, but I think it's kind of mid-pack in terms of the families.
Yeah. Once I get a couple more drafts under my belt, even though I've already done a bunch, next week we're going to talk a lot more about drafting. So stay tuned for that. And we'll have a bit more stuff to kind of add to this. But for the moment, hey, play 2-color. I know it's a 3-color set, but play 2-color, splash another one. You'll be a lot happier.
I do have an early call out for my pick for best common in the set.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to get this on record.
Okay.
And this isn't that bold of a call, so I just wanted to. I felt it'd be fun. We're doing it for constructed later with our best cards and call outs. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have best common. Okay, so this. Let me just make sure I'm getting the name right. Okay, the best common, I think, is Celestial Regulator. So this is 1 white blue for a 2/3 flyer, and when it ETBs, you tap a creature you don't control, and then if you control a creature with a counter on it, that creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. This is like a flying 2/3. What's that cat that did this?
Frostlings.
Frostlings. And Frostlings is a totally respectable limited card on its own. Give it flying and an extra point of toughness. I had to read this card an extra time when it got cast against me the first time, because I was like, why is this a common? What am I missing about this card? And nope, there's so many counters, by the way, that it's almost always Frostlinksy, unless you're just trying to slam it out there as a Windrake, which is also a totally reasonable thing to do. So it's just I don't know, this card's very, very good, and a big reason why I want to be blue-white, the fact that this is a common.
All right, so that's kind of what we think about draft at the moment. I do not have a common I think is the best one right now. I have a couple, but I don't feel very confident in just shooting my shot right now. But maybe next week I'll have something for you. But I did want to talk a little bit about. We're going to talk about standard later, so maybe a little bit of Explorer. Were you able to kind of jump into this format a little bit, see what's going on? Because I sure did.
Yeah, I got to mess around with it a little bit. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy because you're playing with a lot of cards that haven't been able to play with or against in a while. So one of the big ones obviously is Fires of Invention. People are kind of going crazy over Fires of Invention. Another one is one that you've been playing, I hear. So
yeah,
what's another banned 4-drop that I haven't had to play against in a while?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Winota just because it's a creature deck that seemed fun to play. And it is. It's really interesting. Especially now we have Kiki Jiki and you're playing Chariot because it's awesome. And a lot of those things, being able to attack in and try to get as many triggers so that you can either get your elite spellbinders out or you can get brutal Cathars to take out blockers and stuff like that. It's been fun. You definitely just kind of win out of nowhere. You're just yep, and I win.
Yeah, I know Winota's big player in Pioneer, and from what I can tell, there's not too much in the Pioneer version that you're really, really missing in the Explorer version. Mm-hmm. So it made a really good candidate for a deck that's just going to have an early success in Explorer, because it's just one of the best decks in Pioneer.
Yeah. I also played a bit of Greasefang combo just because I wanted to see how it would work.
Of course.
Which was a lot of fun, except for everyone everywhere was playing a ton of regular graveyard hate. That's just all the problems from Historic are still here. I can't.
Right.
Everyone I play against is playing Graveyard Trespasser for some reason, and it just can't win. Also now with Winota being around, cards like Red Cap Melee, because I think Mono Red is around, so Red Cap Melee has been pretty good against Winota, as well as what's that card? Fry, I think. That's 1 in a red for an uncounterable kill a white or blue, or deal 5 to a white or blue thing.
Right.
Really good against Winota or any sort of control deck that has planeswalkers that you can't touch, or Well, Greasefang and Parhelion 2 happens to also die to that card. So seeing all those sideboard cards was pretty rough playing the Greasefang deck. So I was like, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to play Winota.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like a lot of people are pretty excited about it and playing a lot of the constructed events that we were talking about. I've been seeing a lot of people showing their trophies off online and all the play-in points people are getting. It seems like it's really working. People are really excited. I think the only thing is they just kind of wish that, I think the prize payout, they wish that instead of getting an extra pack, you could get a little bit more gems just so you can keep playing.
Sure.
And being like, I like the packs. Thank you for the packs. I wish that I could just jump into these events over and over again easier.
Yeah, and I would say, like, there are a few contenders for decks a lot of people are playing. Like I said, I personally ran into a ton of Fires of Invention. But even in that category, everyone was kind of playing their own take on Fires of Invention. Mm-hmm. So even though I had to play against that card a lot, I still felt like it was a pretty diverse metagame to open things up.
Yeah, even like playing against the red decks, it was like, well, they might be playing Burn with like Hazoret, or they might be playing like the Embercleave, freaking what's his face, Dwarf Man that makes everything like Torbrand. Dwarf Man.
I've been seeing a lot of that deck actually, which I don't know if I was necessarily expecting, but mono red with Torbrand and Embercleave, just like the mono red standard deck from a couple years ago.
Yeah, with like Stomp and everything. Yeah, it's been good. So yeah, it's just nice to have another format that's just like, it just feels like a breath of fresh air. There's all this crazy stuff going on. Of course, it will inevitably settle down and kind of show us what the meta is really going to be, but it's always fun to have something new.
Yeah, which is why I've been playing Rakdos Sacrifice, so that I could get a different feel from the other formats that were available to me and really mix it up.
Nice, yeah, just make sure you can get those Rakdos Sacrifice reps in.
Although I haven't pulled the trigger on crafting Obnixilis so much, because I'm drafting so much, I'm just going to open them, and I just keep not opening them, so I actually don't have those in my list, because I just kind of took a typical Pioneer list and haven't added in any of the new Capenna cards.
Interesting. Yeah. It seems very similar to me where I have opened a bunch of Obnixilis, but none of the Broker's cards that I wanted to build a Broker's deck. I haven't opened any of them, and I've been really frustrated.
If I could stop opening Sanctuary Wardens, that'd be great. What can you do?
But that card's so good. It's also only one color, so it's like... And it's the color you want to be in. So.
Oh yeah, but I open it in pack 3 when I'm Riveteers or something.
Yeah, classic. Always.
I never start the draft off with that. That'd be too good.
No, of course not. No. You're going to start off the draft with just some... I can't even think of a garbage one at the moment, but besides the meeting of the 5, which I've luckily dodged every... I've never seen that card. It's never been in any of my packs, any of my prize packs, nothing. I haven't seen that card at all. It's great.
Nice.
Fucking meeting of the 5. Get out of here. What is this?
Really hope you lose to it at some point in draft.
Oh, that would hurt so much.
But one of us has to lose to it at some point, so.
I don't think anyone's going to play it. I don't know. It's gonna be terrible.
And once you get higher in tier, it becomes less and less likely that your opponent is playing it. So it's what can you do?
Yeah, those are the packs where you're like, no, I'm gonna take whatever land is there over the meeting of the 5. I'm not taking.
The lands are good picks.
Yeah,
they're really strong. Dual lands that you can trade in the late game for a new card.
Yeah,
very good.
Great. It's a good time to be an arena player because there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. Have you managed to run into anything super crazy that you didn't expect? Pioneer?
In Explorer?
Sorry, in Explorer, yes.
I'm sure I have, but I can't... I've played a lot of Winota Mirrors, which has been interesting, trying to figure out how to kind of sideboard against that. And I was playing for a while... Gala Greeters to see if it was any good in Winota just because you're playing a bunch of creatures. and being able to get counters and extra treasure seemed possibly interesting. But for the most part, no. It's been a lot of just Azorius control, which is a horrible matchup, and Winota mirrors. And I haven't even played against Fires of Invention. I've just been playing against like red decks and Rakdos Sack stuff. So
I think the coolest thing I've played against was like this Grixis Treasures deck that just had all the good treasure generating cards, but then a bunch of like Tezzerets to turn them into like 4/4s and 5/5s or kill stuff, because one of the Tezzerets kills, like, gives something -X, where X is the number of artifacts you have. And he makes treasures, but they're called Ethereum cells or something.
Right.
And I think they were playing Revel in Riches, and I was like, you had me until Revel in Riches. Like,
yeah,
you don't need it. Your Tezzerets can win. Your other stuff can win. But that was the sweetest deck that made me want to like go build that deck, and then I realized I don't have any of the Tezzerets, and that's a lot of Mythic Rare wild cards.
Yeah, that seems pretty sweet. You did jog my memory. I was playing against a Grixis Reanimator deck that was...
Okay, I already love it.
Okay, so it was playing Sorin, the mono black one, that lets you play a vampire from your hand for free.
Interesting.
And so I've seen versions, there are a lot of mono black versions that play Xander. And so you play that and then you just take over the game because Xander's crazy. But this is one that you would like, which was Olivia Crimson Bride. So you play her off of Sorin, but then the card you're reanimating is Torgar from Dominaria. That when you, because you can bring that back from the graveyard. It's like a 7/6, and it makes a player's life total equal half of their starting life total.
Right.
So you can usually on turn 3 get them to 10 because you hit them with that, and then both of those creatures equals 10 power.
Equals 10 exactly.
And then you kill them. So if you don't have any blockers or interaction, you're just dead on turn 3, which is very rough, but it is cool. It's not the best strategy, but it was a really cool deck to play against.
Yeah, you're definitely speaking my language. Like, it's almost certainly worse than just putting Xander into play with the Sorin.
Yeah.
But it's way cooler.
It's way cooler. Yeah. It hurts a lot when you exile or you kill their Olivia Crimson Bride, and then their Torgar's gone as well. And then they just have Torgars in their hand, and they can't play them because they don't have any creatures. That becomes a little rough. But
that's the plight of the Reanimator player.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But
sitting there with 4 Gristlebrands in hand, like, here go.
But that was sweet. It's been cool to see some of that stuff.
Yeah, so, I'd say overall it's just looking really good. Obviously, it's just the first weekend. But we have some, try-hard competitive players like Zach playing Winota. Some cool people out there building Grixis treasures, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. Even Rakdos Sack. Oh.
Yeah. Man, I haven't played with Mayhem Devil in a while. I forgot how ridiculous it is.
It's the worst. I usually just scoop. I hate...
Honestly, though, if you're at 13 or less and your opponent plays a Mayhem Devil in the late game, it's a pretty good chance you're dead.
Yeah.
There's some way they can sack that many things, for sure.
And it's always more than you think. Just a cat in an oven is enough to just ruin your day.
Right. Cat Oven Mayhem Devil is 3 every cycle. It's really easy to kill somebody with.
Yeah. Or just anything you play. It's rough. And it takes a long time too, which is annoying because all the clicks.
And there's nothing you can do about it because they can do it in response to you doing something. Mm-hmm. If they, suspect you have some way to gain life or something, I don't know. If you try to exile anything, you can't. It's going to get sacked in response, and it's going to leave the zone. It's there's just not a lot you can do, and I think that's what makes. I would honestly, as someone who plays Rakdos Sacrifice, I think they should just get rid of the Cat Oven combo, and I don't mean ban it from Explorer and Pioneer. I mean purge it from Magic's existence. It just never existed. You just take out one of those cards.
Yeah, what you should do is just of those cards, it should just be the oven, because the cat and having to do some funky food synergy would be interesting. Yeah, if you could get it to come back a couple times, good job. It's the oven that's the annoying one. just like
Right. And the fact that you could, when they're together, you can just do it at any time you want. You can dodge like 3 removal spells a lot of the time. You're like, okay, I can't beat 4 removal spells, but I can beat 3. It's like, you shouldn't be able to beat 3. Like,
yeah, it's like
you have a single 1/1 creature.
like it's not. Just put the stupid like at sorcery speed clause on it, and then like you can sack anything at instant speed, but you only get a food if it was sorcery. That kind of thing. Boom.
Yeah, they did that with Anvil, right? When they printed Anvil, they had learned from the cat oven combo, and they made it like you can sack at any time, but you only get the benefit at sorcery speed.
You know what they should do? They should just start taking like that's a rebalancing thing where it's like, yeah, let's just rewrite stuff instead of banning cards. You should just make them silver border or like whatever acorn stamp, whatever. So it's like, oh, these are all uncards now. Like they don't.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
we
it's
would never print this.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
such a joke.
Just like it's way
Oko,
overpowered.
Thief of Crowns.
Unfinity.
The
there
joke
you go.
is that it's outrageously overpowered.
Yeah, and it would just be. I think that would be kind of a funny joke to just be like, oh, these are in unsets now.
If the next unset just had Oko, Thief of Crowns in it. The problem is they'd worry like people would actually try to, like somehow they would actually fetch a lot of money and like, I don't know. I guess you can't actually play it anywhere, but.
Except for unless your commander group's like, yeah, you can play silver border stuff.
Right, like commander players would still want it, but.
Yeah, which they're selling to anyway, so why not? There, boom, I solved all your problems. Just make every.
Is Oko
band
even
group.
good in commander? I don't even know.
I think it's maybe like CDH. I think it's still good. Like it still does the thing.
Right.
It's not.
It's not like
It's not
busted.
the same. No, but it still like destroys whatever you want, or like, or
Yeah, I guess that's true. You have to like face all kinds of different permanents.
yeah. So it's like, oh, I just have this, and it'll do it for me. Anyway,
Literally answers everything and leaves me with upside. That's probably pretty good.
yeah, yeah. So, yes. Anyway, there we go. Boom. Turning cards silver border instead of banning. I love it. Seems great. Let's do it.
That's our main conclusion out of our exploration of the new set.
The new format and the new set. Yes. But Jeff,
Our limited exploration.
yeah, we might even have some more limited talk next week. But with that, Jeff, do you think we should get into our Worth a Slot segment? I think it might be time.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right, so before that, we're going to go on a beer break. This beer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by being a listener. But if you want to support the show even more, the Patreon, that's the best way to do that.
And when you become a patron, you get an exclusive invite to our after party, which is a mini episode recorded immediately after this one where we ramble on about non-magic things.
Plus, you get to vote on which one of us you like more by, well, just click that Buy Jeff a Beer button. It's right there. It should be the only, like, the most prominent thing on the page, I think, if I remember correctly.
No.
But you just give that a click.
No.
And then, yeah.
No. You just, the one right before it is Buy Zach a Beer. And that's the one you really want to click on. Because that's what everyone else has clicked on. So you should just buy me a beer.
All right, let's even those odds.
So go to patreon.com/arena regulars to see how many votes I have over Jeff. Oh. You know, Jeff, today I was just thinking about mortality, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking, you know, at some point, all things die. Mm-hmm. Luckily, that's the name of our beer this evening. All things die.
Wow.
What a segue. This is the beer from Third Moon that I am bringing tonight. It is a double IPA, 8.1%, and it has a picture of some sort of bird with a human skull face. It's another kind of scary thing. This one's a bit prettier, though, because the colors are really nice. And
Isn't this pretty much that card from Midnight Hunt?
Which one?
Like, there was like a flying thing that made a 2/2 decayed zombie. It kind of
Oh,
just
shit,
like
you're right. It's the, the blue one, the Windrake that does
some
that.
sort of abomination, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember the... Yeah, I love all the crazy Windrakes they make now. Like this new one has lifelink, essentially.
Yeah.
That one made a 2/2. Just like, I remember the days when Windrake was a solid, totally solid card.
Yeah. Now, it's not good enough. You need something else. But
Or just Falcon Abomination, right?
that's what it was. Falcon Abomination. You're right. But anyway, excited to get into this double IPA. We got a big, hefty evening after that 11 percenter. We got an 8.1 percenter. So watch out. We might pass out in this next segment. So it's time
It's like 19.1%.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely how it works.
That's how it works. And it is time for our Worth a Slot segment. The time where
Love
we start off a new set. We say which cards are worth a slot in your standard deck, or maybe a different format deck. Who knows? But you might be able to craft some of these and feel pretty confident about it.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
Hopefully, it's not always that way. But I think this time we tried to make sure, and I think we're gonna start saying some good stuff. You could craft these and feel good about it.
Right. And we'll keep Triumphs off the list, I guess, since, we don't want them all to be Triumphs.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 6 slots, and well, Triumphs can't take all of them. So Jeff, tell us what our system is for our Worth a Slot segment.
All right, so our categories for the Worth a Slot, we've named them after a well-known sporting event, and I'll let you see if you can figure it out from the names. So first we have our layup. These are cards that basically will almost certainly see some amount of play. Basically, these tend to be the best cards in the set. Then we'll have a three-pointer. These ones are a little more, more of a shot, but they're going to be good cards. You can expect them. They might see some play. They might see a lot of play. We're not really sure. And then our half court, these are ones that, let's be honest, we want to see play, but probably
Won't.
Yeah.
But we want to make sure that we're giving you some good stuff. So you should feel fairly confident in crafting the ones that we tell you how many to craft them, basically. So
Right.
not everything is worth 4 crafts. Just know that when you're crafting cards, you don't need to get all 4 copies. Throw that idea out the window.
It's actually really, really helpful to know, like, oh, is this a rare I only need 2 of? And you happen to pick 2 up drafting. Suddenly you're good.
Boom.
You don't need all 4 of everything unless your goal is to collect, which a lot of people love collecting. So
That's true.
That's totally fine too. But some cards are just never going to have more than 2 copies, in the deck because they're just very specific.
Also, if you're a collector, just know that's going to cost money. It's going to.
Right.
It is unreasonable to think that you will get every single card from every single set without putting any money in. So
if you can, Wizards probably didn't do their job properly.
yeah, because
pricing the product.
Can't do that in paper either. So, all right, Jeff, let's get right into this. I have a very important coin for us. The ceremonial toonie is back. So we get to pick who's going to go first. We're going to snake draft this thing because we probably have some of the same things on our lists, though I might have some curveballs for you. Who knows? All right, Jeff.
That's a different sport,
It is, but hey, you could you spin a basketball, right? There's a little, you curve it, right? No,
I mean, I guess we do often talk about home run slam dunks. So.
That's true. So we do like, hey, there you go, curveballs into us the layup. All right,
Yeah.
It's a curved pass ball. Let's go. I'm gonna flip this coin, and you're gonna say heads or tails. Here you go.
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah. Tails.
It's heads.
Oh, but you didn't tell me you were going to catch it and flip it. I thought I was just going to hit the dash.
I've always catched and flipped.
I thought it was catch and look, not catch and flip. Otherwise, I would have changed my guess.
Jeff, I know it's been a really long time, but I also know that you always say tails never fails. So I don't believe that for a second.
Fails. But it fails so often. It fails like almost half the time.
Yeah, I know. Especially with this coin that's only both heads.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take a look at that coin at one point.
You have not been able to see it for a very long time, actually. So,
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I get to go first. That gives me a really, really juicy layup. Here we go. Are you ready for it?
This one was pretty important to get the first pick for.
I strongly believe you should spend your wild cards on this 3-mana Planeswalker. All 4 copies for Ob Nixilis. Mwahaha.
Yeah, although some people apparently don't even have to spend wild cards on them. They're just
Yeah.
that lucky.
I have 3 copies from just drafting, which is fantastic. But Jeff, I think that you should use 4 mythic wild cards on Ob Nixilis, the adversary, just because, well, it's amazing. We've been talking a lot about this card. It's very strong. The fact that you can copy all the copies or the tokens, very strong. Playing Jund seems like a lot of fun. And this guy hanging around really warps the entire meta against it. Either you play Ob Nixilis or you don't. And that's kind of how the decks are going to run these days. So I say, might as well join him, craft all your copies, because if he's so good he gets banned, you get those wild cards back. Might as well just spend them up front and just jump on the train, man.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, we should spend some time talking about him. I know we've spent some time in both the past 2 episodes talking about Ob Nixilis, but this is the first time we've actually gotten to play with him, and this is one of those, a lot of the times cards look super powerful, then you play against them, you realize they're not that good. This is not one of those times. This is one of those times where every time I've seen it resolved on the battlefield, I've been like, what is this? Why does my opponent get 2 planeswalkers for 3 mana?
And usually it's not even only 2. Usually they
Right.
end up with 3 or 4.
So, right, and the other thing that we did mention it a couple of episodes ago, or last episode, but I think it was 2 ago, but I didn't realize how important it was, but the second copy isn't useless. It adds another, the second copy of the card in your hand. If you draw a second Ob Nixilis, a lot of the times when you draw a second version of the Planeswalker, the best you're going to do is get to activate twice in one turn. You play one, you activate the first one, play the second one, lose the first one, and activate again, which isn't, the worst. It gives Planeswalkers some amount of insurance against double draws. But Ob Nixilis gets you ahead because you get another copy. You'll end up with 3 Ob Nixilises when you play the second one that you drew.
Yeah.
Because the copies are not legendary. So, and when your opponent has 3 copies or more of this thing, forcing you to discard a card or get drained for 2, that's 6 a turn or 3 cards. There's no way, there's nothing you could do to make that not obnoxious.
Yeah. Especially when they have a devil or a demon where they're also gaining life.
Right. Was that part necessary, by the way, on this card? Were they you know what, this card won't see any play unless we add a little bit of incidental life gain to it?
Yeah. I do like it because it does give you incentive to -1 of your Ob Nixilises, which leads me to my next point, is that you want the real copy of Ob Nixilis to die. You're totally fine with it. When you play the 2, no matter what card you ended up sacking for the casualty for the token copy, minusing the real one and plussing the token is usually a good idea, because then you get the devil to block one of them, and if the real one dies, if you draw a redundant copy like you were saying, you just get to keep the next one. It's usually upside, and there's so many more things you can do with the token than what you can do with the actual real card. It's usually better to just keep the token around.
Yeah, I'm glad you called that out, because that's maybe a little unintuitive. If you weren't thinking about it, you would probably just let the token die, because you're just oh, whatever, that's the fake one. But you're absolutely right. Especially if you're playing Jund, because you can copy it with the Seeker's Chariot, you can't copy the real version. There's numerous reasons that you want the token, and I can't think of many reasons that you would want to keep the main one. If there were a lot of bounce spells for non-land permanents,
Maybe.
then you'd want the real one. But there's just not a lot of that going on right now. I can't even think of one, to be honest. I'm thinking of Into the Royal, which nobody plays. So
Yeah. So, really, in any case, it's a really great card to have. And it is interesting. I was watching Andrea Mengucci's stream, and he was just talking about how it's shifting the meta into a really board-heavy meta, where you need to have a presence to deal with all the copies of Ob Nixilis that are around that come out so quickly. And also this Esper Planeswalker deck that we're going to get into. You just need some sort of board presence with creatures that can get through and deal damage to these planeswalkers, because they are really strong and they're coming around. Because a lot of times Obnixilis isn't even, it's just the first planeswalker you see. Then they're going to play a Lolth after that. And so you're like, this is choosing which planeswalkers to attack becomes really important, and kind of having your list of, well, do I attack Lolth first and then the real Obnixilis I can keep around, so I'll try to get rid of the token, like all that stuff. It gets really complicated. So this card is just format warping, and I would not be surprised if it gets banned. With that being said, I'm not calling for bans. I just think as the arena regulars, we are always on the side of, if a card might get banned, craft it, because then you get free wild cards.
Right, because it certainly won't get banned in Explorer, I don't think. So
Probably
it's like,
not.
if you craft it, then you get your wild cards back when it gets banned in Standard, and then you have them if you ever want to play it in Historic or in Explorer. That's the reason that we advocate for that.
Yeah. Or
and if you
it's rebalanced in
spend
Alchemy.
your time and you miss the Standard banning, then you still have to craft them if you ever decide you want to play them in Explorer. Or,
exactly.
Historic.
That's why I already have all my that's why I have all my Omnaths for Explorer, because that's the first thing we did on our very first episode of this podcast, was tell you to craft Omnaths. So
I thought you were going to say it's why you opened 3 of them in draft. And I was like, yeah.
No.
If I had to guess, if we're putting me on the spot, I would say this card won't get banned. But it's the closest we've seen in a while, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, it is warping the whole format. They just have to decide if it's warping it in a bad way. Because I think making people play to the board is not a bad thing, actually.
No.
All right, but you mentioned the Esper Planeswalker deck, so this was my backup in case I didn't win the coin flip of a card that I can absolutely recommend. You shouldn't feel bad crafting. And so I'm going to take us up. I don't know if it's necessarily the second strongest card in the set, but it's very powerful, and it's almost sure to see play. So I'm going to go with Voidrend. This is white, blue, black. Instant, the spell can't be countered, destroy target online permanent. We've also mentioned this, but now's a good time, I guess, to talk about that Esper Planeswalkers deck, which was one of the... I thought it was a little overhyped. I didn't think it was the strongest deck in the format, but I think it was the most played, so people just liked it. And it just got a whole influx of great cards, in particular the new Triome, to help them with their mana troubles, and then this card just to add to their array of stuff that answers a lot of things. But it also is important because with this set, they've been relying a lot on Vanishing Verse, and Vanishing Verse will naturally get weaker after a multicolored set comes out, where a lot of the powers and multicolored permanents, people play more multicolored stuff. Vanishing Verse only hits monocolored permanents, so Vanishing Verse will naturally get weaker.
And it doesn't hit Obnixilis, which is a card you're going to want to get rid of.
So now you still kind of get 2-for-1 when you hit Obnixilis for this. It's not a total 2-for-1 because they did sack a creature to get that other copy. But, I mean, they upgraded their crappy 1-drop into a Planeswalker. So it feels pretty much like you got 2-for-1. And I guess they got the extra Obnixilis activation. So it's probably nets out to about a 2-for-1. But honestly, if you don't do it, you just lose. So, it's an infinite for one in that sense, where it's like, instead of just losing the game right now, I give myself a chance.
Yeah.
So I think this card's pretty important and slots into an already really great deck. So you can expect, if you're an Esper player, this is going to be one of your go-to removal spells moving forward, because it's just so versatile.
Yeah. With that being said, I really like the Voidrend pick. I do think that I wouldn't immediately craft all 4. I might start with a few, because there are other cards that will fit into some of the other slots, and I might see how often I need it to go. So maybe I'd start with like 2 or 3, and then decide if I need the 4th one.
Yeah, that's a good thing to call out too. It's like, because of what I said, where you still do have Vanishing Verse, like, you're going to have to vary your removal suite, and it's going to kind of adapt to the metagame. And so like imagine if you had something eliminate at your disposal right now, you'd probably want to be jamming 4 of those to answer up Nixilis as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So it's naturally going to ebb and flow. I think probably eventually there will be some Esper lists that are running 4 of this. But right now it's probably going to be like 2 of these, 2 or 3 Vanishing Verses, a couple of the, something like Power Word Kill being in the mix, stuff like that. But it's going to be pretty important as just a way to get Ob Nixilis off the table for sure.
That, and also it's really good in the mirror, of course, against that Esper Planeswalker deck because can't be countered. So, that's a good one. That was another one that I was thinking about. So obviously we're on the same page with our layups. All right, Jeff, we're going right into our 3-pointers. We're snake drafting. So what do you got for me?
I'll just throw out this one as my 3-pointer. But this feels like, this is like Steph Curry just shooting that 3-pointer, It's like I'm a lot more confident in it than...
Yeah, it's going to go in.
I were shooting it. So this is Endless Detour. This is green, white, blue for an instant. The owner of target spell, non-land, permanent, or card in a graveyard puts it on the top or bottom of their library. After playing with the card, it's like, this card is very, very good. My only reason of putting it below... I already forgot the name.
Void Rend?
I just labeled the best. Void Rend. My only reason for putting it below that is just that I'm not totally sure it's going to find as many homes. Like, Esper has already proven itself as a dominant color trio in this format, so people are naturally just going to keep building on that. I do actually think that there's a Bant deck. Like, I feel like there is a Broker's deck out there. This mid-rangey, it just has so many powerful cards. Exactly what you were talking about last week, that just some of the best 2-drops with
Luminarch Aspirant and Rangers class.
Yeah, and Rangers class. It's like that Gala Greeters.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this is a totally reasonable card. I just don't know how it's ever going to crack. Like, why would anyone play this? You're either going to play Luminarch Aspirant or you're going to play the Innkeeper. And this is like worse than both, but it kind of does both things. But like it just has so many good cards in it, and this card is just again super super versatile. It's like if you haven't played against Aethergust, it might be hard to understand why this card's so good. But you only have to play against Aethergust when you're playing like a green deck once before you're like, this is so dumb. Like, the old days of Nissa, Untapped, Breeding Pool, and Aethergust, whatever you do, was just like, wow, I just cannot win.
Yeah, I really like Endless Detour, and I'm very excited to play with it when I can open some. And so I can finally try to build that Bant deck, but I'm still kind of holding out hope that I'll get them in the draft. But I think it's great. It's also, like you were saying, it might be a piece of the puzzle against this Esper Planeswalker deck because they can't hit you with a couple things. Maybe they try to flash in their Wandering Emperor and you like get to bounce it, or they're using any of their uncounterable spells, you get to bounce them. So
and that's what I was going to say too, is like against Ob Nixilis in particular, what I'm about to say doesn't really apply, but with so many people playing Planeswalkers, the best way to combat them is to not let them hit the battlefield, because if you remove them after they hit the battlefield, they've already done something. Now, the way Casualty works, you're still, I think, coming out behind on this interaction, but you still at least don't let one of the Ob Nixilises do its thing.
Yeah.
So it still is better than a removal spell against it, but it still is sort of getting 2 for 1 a little bit. But that's just another reason that Ob Nixilis is kind of a ridiculous card. Like, I can't even counter it, basically. Basically. But no, this card is very nice against Planeswalkers, because the best way to fight a Planeswalker is to just not let them hit the battlefield.
Yeah. You can also just bounce the token, So that's just another good thing, because if they're already trying to keep the token around and like sacrifice their real copy for something, you're just like bounce the token and at least I get rid of it. It just is very versatile.
Putting
so that's
the
why
real
it's
one
really
on
helpful.
top is just going to have them sack their devil token and make 2 more. So
yeah. So You're not really happy with that. Great. I like that card. I'm excited to play with it. I want to get into all the weird things that can happen with that card.
But you can bounce the token while it's on the stack too, which is weird. But you, like, same way we were saying you want to keep the token, you probably, if you're planning on countering one of the obs,
You counter
it's probably a good idea a lot of the time to counter the casualty copy.
Yeah. So then they just
So they don't just draw it again.
so they just sack a creature to sack a creature, which is feels good.
I mean, to make you discard this, I guess. But
Yeah.
to trade, they sacked a creature.
Sure.
to trade with this, but-
So you killed the creature instead. I don't know. It kind of goes into a spiral, but all right. I like that. I have a 3-pointer that I think is pretty good. I think there's some other cards that could make this 3-pointer, but I think this one fits into a deck, and we'll see it around. And it might surprise you which decks it goes into, but I'm going to talk about Tenacious Underdog. This card
I mean, I love this card. So.
is it's definitely a card
I feel like
thought
you chose the ones that I would normally choose. And I'm
I know.
choosing ones more with like what you would choose.
So if you don't remember, this is the 2-mana human warrior. So it's 1 and a black for a 3/2, and it has blitz. So you can play 2 black and pay 2 life to blitz it, which is weird because it costs more than that. But you can cast Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard using its blitz ability.
Costs less than that.
Yeah, sorry, it costs less than that normally. So it's just a 2-mana 3/2, which is great in your black deck because you're also playing red because you're playing Obnixilis. So you're sacrificing this card to Obnixilis to make a 3-mana copy of your Obnixilis, which is perfect because that's the highest you can get basically on the curve, hitting on 2. And then you play this card from your graveyard. And then every time you blitz it, you pay 2 life, but you also get to draw a card, which is amazing. So you get awesome attacks from your graveyard, drawing more cards at the end of your turn. Plus, you're probably gaining the life back from the 2 life you're paying because of your devil token being out and you plussing your planeswalker. So this card ends up being really good in that deck. The other cards that kind of fill this spot are the Blood Tithe Harvester, which is from Crimson Vow. It's another 2-mana like 3/2, but it's black and red, so it's a little harder to cast on turn 2 always. And then I don't think anyone is actually playing this. I thought people would, but I haven't seen it. But it's the Skyclave Shade.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Remember when you said Skyclave Shade was the perfect like curve into Obnixilis? I was like, well, this card.
This card's in the set, and it's way better.
Yeah. Right.
Because you don't have to like. Yeah, it's just way better. You don't have to return it to your hand or anything and replay it. No, it's so good. So, yes, this card is the business. Also, this guy has abs for days and is awesome. So
I was gonna say my most important question with this card is if this guy's the underdog, what the fuck does the other guy look like?
yeah, the fact that if you look in the art, so this dude is just like this human warrior, ripped fucking crazy man. His trainer is a fucking dragon. That's
Yeah. But he's the underdog. You know, he's trained by dragons, but you know, nobody expects him to win.
Yeah, who is he fighting? Like, and the thing is that like we're using him just to get sacrificed too. Like it's not even like so.
And I like that he just has brass knuckles on his belt just in case.
That aren't on his hands.
No, it's like it's a boxing match or whatever. Like
Yeah.
bare knuckled boxing. It looks like. But he's like, you know what? If I really start to lose, I could just slip these on.
And then start going.
Yeah.
Anyway, this card seems great. I think that it'll fit really well into these Obnixilis decks, but also I'm sure you'll be able to find it in a bunch of decks that just like play black because it's a really good, strong 2-drop. They can trade off with whatever boards people are making that are trying to feast on Obnixilis decks.
Yeah, this card's amazing.
Yeah. Also, blitzing something out after a board wipe to kill a planeswalker sounds very good. So,
Oh yeah, you had to draw a card. I've seen the dream where you had some treasure tokens lying around from your Kikijiki saga, and you blitz this out attack and then sack it to Obnixilis, like draw the card into Obs. Like, you know, it gives the deck some late game without actually forcing them to play any expensive cards. Like, it's just classic. This card is amazing in that deck, and is a big reason why I think right now, like, Jund is the deck to beat in the format. Just sort of Jund, mid-range, tops out probably at Lulth.
Yep.
But does this whole kind of exactly what curve you were talking about, you know, the 8/2 drops you mentioned into Obnixilis and Fable the Mirror Breaker into the only green card really being the Seaga's Chariot, but with the new mana you don't, you know, it makes it pretty easy to get the Seaga's Chariot out on time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a really powerful deck. It's funny that the Blood Tithe Harvester is like probably the worst card in that deck, and it's totally a reasonable card that I've seen play. So it's like, yeah, that's a really powerful deck, and this card's a big reason why, because the curve into Obnixilis is crazy.
So good. All right, continuing with our snake draft, going into half-court shots. I have to make a decision here because I had two ready, and I know that they're both cards that you are not going to talk about, so I have to decide which one I want to talk about.
So you know that I'm not going to like take the other one, and you don't have to worry about it.
I'm just really I had two just in case I didn't know who was going to go first or whatever, but I was pretty positive you weren't going to choose either of these cards. So I think
an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah, no, not that. So my half court shot is going to be something I wasn't expecting on talking about this card really ever throughout the entire set, but I played against it and it ended up being a lot more annoying and horrible than I thought. So I think it could have a deck. It could do something. So we are talking about Ginny Faye Jetmir's second. So she had quite a big part of the story that she dealt with, but this is it is a hybrid Gruul mana, a green mana, and then a hybrid Celestia. So it is a mono green card if you want to play it that way. But I was thinking it would be more in like a Celestia deck or even possibly a Cabaretti deck. But I think that you'd probably stick to try to do two colors if you wanted to. But it's a 3/3 elf druid. But the thing about this card is that it says if you would create one or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. I was playing against this card, and I was like, why are you playing this card? This seems dumb. But all they're doing was playing Wedding Announcement, and then they're playing this, and they're also playing the, the Black Market Tycoon. That's the Gruul 2/2 cat rogue that taps and creates a treasure token. So basically, all they were doing was like making as many treasures or tokens as possible, and then they could make a bunch of 2/2 cats and attack my Obnixilis. It was really frustrating because their board presence could like explode in a second. It was just like, I play this, and then I make a bunch of treasure, and then I just attack you immediately, and you're gonna lose something. It just always seemed to be in a situation where like I couldn't do much about it because I wasn't playing enough board wipes, and they got creatures on the board fast. There are so many cards that just make tokens. Like Valdarin, what is it? The Initiate that makes the blood token? That's a cat, or that's a dog. Anything that makes blood tokens or makes treasure tokens or that makes any sort of token, 1/1 tokens, any token just becomes a hasty cat or like a vigilant dog that you end up having a Wedding Announcement that pumps all of them. It was really so much more frustrating than I thought. And I do think that there's a possibility this could be somewhere. I was really pleasantly surprised to see this deck come out and be like, if being on the board means something, I like how this could turn non-creature tokens into creatures. Whenever you not whenever you need them, but if you decided to go into that play pattern, you could. So it's a half court shot for sure, but I feel a little bit better than other half court shots I've taken on this card.
Yeah. You know, I will admit that I missed that it's just any token. I just assumed it said creature token because it makes creature tokens. it is definitely, when you said it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna need to hear what the reasoning is on this. Now, and I was like, it's better be something weird that I'm misreading the card and not totally getting it. It's like, okay, yeah, I didn't totally get it. Yeah, interesting. Any token, huh? Now I'm wondering if there's something that just like creates a fuckload of tokens that would just make like a bunch of hasty cats. You know, as like a combo. Oh, sort of insta-kill combo kind of thing.
I don't think there's anything that doesn't already make like creatures. Like they make a ton of tokens, but they're all like creatures already.
Right, right. Is there anything that you can get under cost because it makes like a bunch of blood or something?
Yeah.
It's more blood than it really should.
Or something like that. But even playing like big score or something, where you're like, sick. I actually no, they're creatures, and they attack. You know, and you draw 2 cards or whatever. The great thing about this card is that you can choose whether it is a cat or not. It says you may instead. So
Right. So if you're like, you know what, I want those treasures from Big Score, you're allowed.
yes, so you can keep those treasures if you want. If you want the blood, you can have that as well. We're in this huge token meta where like tokens are really big and there's just tokens
Right.
around. So this is a card that uses tokens differently. If you ended up wanting to play this in your Jund Obnixilis deck and you happen to not want Obnixilis token, you can make a hasty cat.
Oh man, I would love that. That reminds me of, there was that like vintage tournament, and the championship was won because somebody turned his Black Lotus into a 3/3 with Oko
Yeah.
and killed them. Like, that's what that would be like. So you're at 2, right? But you have a card to discard. Omnixilis, make the token into a 2/2 haze.
Boom.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty fun. I don't see that coming up too often, but
No.
I love that it can.
yes.
I'm going to talk about Obscura Interceptor. So this is 1 white, blue, black for a cephalid, apparently wizard. Flash, lifelink 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, it connives. When it connives this way, return up to 1 target spell to its owner's hand. So this is sort of like, we kind of were talking off air about the card from Midnight Hunt that did something very similar, Spell Queller. But this
Oh,
is
you
like
mean Eldritch Moon?
sorry, yeah, Eldritch Moon. A different Innistrad set. But this is like the remand version of Spell Queller, right? Because it comes down, it draws a card, and puts it back in your hand. And then it's a 3/1 lifelink. I think it's a bit like, it's only going to work in a tempo deck. And so tempo decks would rather not have to worry about mana, which is kind of it's kind of why I would label it not just an awesome card and just a half-court shot, because being 3 mana in what really wants to go in an aggro deck or like a tempo them out kind of deck isn't the best, but it is a very powerful card, right? Like a 3/1 flash lifelink. It's probably a lot of the time a 4/2
Yeah.
flash lifelink that loots away your worst card and, you know, remands their spell. Is really, really good. It's just, I don't know if a tempo deck is going to exist in the format. Like, I wouldn't play this in Esper Planeswalkers.
That's interesting because I have seen some lists where it's in Esper Planeswalkers, and I do like that it is a card that is the same mana cost as Wandering Emperor. So you hold up which one you want, and sometimes
Same mana value, yeah.
mana value. Sorry, not mana cost. Yeah, mana value. And so then, if you're holding up the 4 mana and they don't end up attacking you, so you don't exile anything, you can just flash this in as a creature if you need. Or if there's an
I think that
empty
deck's
board.
so much less interested in creatures, like actual creatures, because normally one of the benefits of that deck is you have to waste your removal spells on like a 2/2 token that they made or something.
Yeah.
Or like a 1/1 unblockable ninja. To have an actual target for removal, I'm not totally sold on in that deck.
Okay.
But I do agree that being able to hold up this plus Wandering Emperor is definitely interesting. But I think where this would shine the most would be if you had some sort of like blue, you know, the blue-white deck that some people were playing right around the time of the World Championship. Like, one player brought it to the World Championship, and it was very like tempo-oriented blue-white deck. if you could squeeze black in there. That's the kind of thing I'm imagining. This would really be tough to beat. Like it tops out that curve.
Okay, I can see that. I think I'd have to watch it happen. I do like this card, and it was one I was thinking about. So I'm not completely off this card. I think we might just have different applications for it. But
Yeah,
I've played with it.
And this is, trying to match your level of a 3-point or a half court.
Oh,
shot.
for sure.
Both of these are strong cards.
Oh, no. I'm saying
Nazi play.
this is a card that I was considering for my stuff.
Yeah,
So
right.
I definitely think it's worth playing. And I have played it a little bit, and it was just as a body after someone like wiped the board seemed to be. I was happy with like a 3 or a 4 power lifelinker, especially when you're like finally stabilizing the board and your life's a little low. You're like, well, attacking some of your planeswalkers or your opponent seems to be pretty good. But
I know you always got to be a bit wary of things that get, things that get punked by the Meat Hook Massacre, right?
That's true, which is just about everything. But
right.
But this one is it can bounce their Meat Hook Massacre back to their hand, and play a creature afterwards.
Make it better next turn.
That's true. Because they obviously.
I think the lifelink is really important. If it didn't have lifelink, I probably wouldn't even look at it.
No,
but because it has lifelink, it's like, that's a pretty big deal.
It's a pretty big deal. And Connive is, like I said, better than you think. Like,
right.
Just being able to do that it can be pretty strong. So, yeah. All right, Jeff. Do we have some overrated, underrated cards for this set? I was having a pretty hard time actually thinking about overrated ones because for the most part they seem to be all really bonkers. So
I think people are really excited for this set, so it's hard to find overrated cards. I think maybe I'm just excited for this set, and so cards people are excited about, I'm also excited about. So it's hard for me to find the overrated card, but. It's possible we could say Obnixilis is overrated because 75% of people want it to be banned already. And it's like, it's obviously amazing, but is it that good?
Yeah. But then also I think I thought Obnixilis was going to be good, but then playing with it and against it, it's a lot better than I thought. It's like, I thought it was
better. It is better than you thought.
I thought it was going to be really good. It's very, very good. And so that's, right. I don't often tell you to put 4 of your mythic wild cards, which are the most coveted, into something. This is definitely worth it. Do it.
The card is insane.
It's insane.
All the little stuff we've been talking about adds up, right? You can't actually counter it. Mm-hmm. And I know that. So there's just no way to trade profitably with this thing without having a huge board by the time it comes down.
Yeah.
But how are you going to do that? It comes down on turn 3. So
yeah, you have to be way underneath it. So, which is really hard. I'm wondering if, do you think, so this is a card I was looking at earlier and it's not underrated or overrated. And I don't know if we're going to actually get to that section this time around, just because, I don't know, it's unless you have some underrated stuff, I'm not really sure.
I do have my pick. So maybe I can convince you on my pick for overrated.
Okay. Give me the overrated.
My pick for overrated card. And again, overrated doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that I'm seeing everyone playing this. And people are building decks around this card. Titan of Industry. This is 4 green, 7/7 reach trample. Does 2 things when it enters the battlefield. Just for context, you can't choose the same thing twice. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5 life. Create a 4/4 or put a shield counter. So it's I think this reads better than it is. People look at this, they're like, wow, 7/7 reach trample that does 2 things when it ETBs. And it's I think you're not fully appreciating how much 7 mana is in current day and age. 7 mana should win you the game these days. We're talking Sultai Ultimatum, Emergent Ultimatum. Literally, 7 mana should win you the game. And so people are building ramp decks, they're building reanimator decks, they're building all this stuff. And it's is this that much better than, I don't know, just topping out at Goldspan Dragon? Does this make your deck better? And so I think this is a powerful card. It is close, where it's finally a creature for 7 mana that feels like you're getting 7 mana worth of stuff. But I just think you're not. This isn't Dalaran's Epiphany. This isn't Emergent Ultimatum. This 7 mana needs to win you the game these days, and this is a creature. Like, this just gets eaten by the 2 mana spell. So why are we bending over backwards to play this? This isn't Ugin, you don't ramp into this and win. I'm just not, unless your opponent's playing like Artifact Enchantment deck and a 4/4 is I don't know. Shield counters don't do anything against Vanishing Verse, so
Yeah.
I think it's a bit overrated.
I agree. I have seen a lot of the Reanimator decks with it. I haven't seen ramp decks as much. But something that...
I'm seeing some people try to ramp into this. It's
Yeah.
sort of probably like a tier 2 sort of fringe kind of thing. But
It's definitely the kind of card that I hate. Anything that you ramp into, I tend to not like. I like cards that hit curve really nicely. So I have quickly looked at this card and been like, meh, doesn't seem good enough, and gone past. So I think I'm probably on the same page as you of like, I don't like it that much. I'm not really happy.
like, I think I would ramp into Coma before I ramped into this.
Oh,
personally.
absolutely. Coma is a nightmare. This card does something once. Like, if you're playing a card like this, like Cultivator Colossus, like, that seems a lot more interesting. At least you draw cards. Like,
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to convince me about Cultivator.
I know. I know you love that. So, yeah, I agree. It's, it just seems like a big dumb idiot.
It's more flashy than good, right? It
Yeah.
just seems like, whoa, it's awesome. But it's like, that's just not how Magic works anymore. You can't get ahead by leaving a 4/4 Rhino behind the same way that you used to be able to when you spent 5 cards to make that happen, to ramp it out early, or 3 cards or 4
or whatever.
cards.
Yeah. Honestly, my overrated card, I don't know if I really have one. I've looked at cards for a while, and it always feels like I just kind of feel the same as everyone else. Like, nothing seems just so powerful, or people think it's so powerful, but I don't agree or anything like that. So for the most part, I think
no Boseiju this time around.
there's no Boseiju. Nothing seems to be just crazy. I feel very, very much like, anytime someone's talking about a card, I'm like, I either feel fairly close to what they do, or like, I probably, of all things, just think cards are undervalued, as opposed to, oh, that's just no good.
I think that's fairly common in multicolored sets, because multicolored cards are harder to evaluate because they all do so many things, and the mana costs are like the prohibiting factor, and so you have to weigh it against how easy it is to actually cast that in the format.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously gold cards are strong, and so a set with a bunch of gold cards can be like, wow, all these cards seem pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did you have anything that you thought was underrated? Because you were saying that you thought maybe some people weren't coming in hot enough.
I am wondering about this card, and I don't even think it's underrated. I think it's just not rated at all. Like, it's one of the cards that people don't look at or think about at all.
I think it's fair to say that's underrated then.
Yeah, I'm wondering what can happen with Scheming Fence. So this is the white and a blue for a 2/3 human citizen. It says, as it enters the battlefield, you may choose a non-land permanent, and activated abilities of the chosen permanent can't be activated. And then Scheming Fence has all the activated abilities of the chosen permanent, except for loyalty abilities, and then you can only spend mana as though they were mana of whatever color for the abilities. But I'm wondering if this card could be a foil against Obnixilis in a nice way.
Yeah.
Of being like, hey, I know I don't get your loyalty abilities, but on turn 2, I just say Obnixilis.
It'd be absurd if it got loyalty abilities.
Right?
So,
But on turn 2, I play this. I'm thinking it's hard because my Broker's deck, I know I want these other turn 2 plays. But in a nice sideboard deck, or sideboard game, sorry, this card comes down and you just say, no matter what, Obnixilis. Obviously if you're playing against that card, but you're like, you have to kill this before you can do anything with your tokens. You could make them, but you can't use them. Deal with me. Seems like an interesting play. I don't know if it will... I feel like that's what the card was made to do, just being in the set. But it makes me intrigued, and I just don't think I've seen any single person talk about this card ever. So I'm wondering if
for
it
sure.
if it does have applications, and it makes me kind of interested in it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up because it's like with this planeswalker heavy meta, I feel like people read that last ability and say, "Oh, you're not supposed to use it against planeswalkers." It's like, well, it's still a 2/3 that pithing needles your opponent's planeswalker. That is good. Like, it doesn't have to also steal their abilities to be great. If there's a creature that or something that you can steal the ability, that's even better. But yeah, this is a 2/3 that pithing needles an opponent's planeswalker. And one weakness of the Jund decks that I've noticed so far is they don't play a lot of removal. Most of them are playing like 4 Voltage Surge, and that's pretty much it. And it's like, okay, this is a real problem for them. Because so much of their game plan is reliant on Obnixilis. I believe you can also turn off the
Chariot?
Cadillac with this.
Yeah.
They still get the 2/2/2s. It's not great, but it's like
It blocks the 2/2s really well.
I can block your 2/2s, and you can't activate your Chariot. Right? It's not bad. Esper Planeswalkers, it preempts the Wandering Emperor, it preempts Kaito, it preempts Lolth. Like, there's just a lot of activated abilities going on right now. It dodges Vanishing Verse, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is just a totally reasonable 2-drop to play in a blue-white sort of creature-based deck.
And it attacks those planeswalkers or other ones. So,
Exactly.
As opposed to a pithing needle, which won't.
Now, it makes you wonder, like, am I better off just playing Thalia and forcing them to pay an extra mana for those planeswalkers? And, probably, but like that doesn't mean this can't slot in. Like, Thalia's legendary too, so maybe you play 3 Thalia and then, like you're saying, these in your sideboard or a couple of these or something. Because I've seen posts where people are like, "Yeah, I've just started main decking Pithing Needle because of Obnixilis." So it's like this is a great option for creature decks that want Pithing Needle but don't want to play Pithing Needle.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's not good in an aggro deck.
Really interesting. So I think it might be underrated, but I'm glad that you're kind of on board with it because I was looking at it today and I was like, you know what, that seems like a fun play.
And I'm trying to think if there's any dope creatures whose ability I actually want to steal. Like, can I steal this activate? Is there a great activated ability that people play that this can actually steal? That would put the cherry on top for me, where I'm like, yes,
probably. But do you have an underrated card as I kind of look for some of those abilities we might want?
So I feel like I had to go with this card, and maybe this is just the black red sort of base player. Maybe this is just the Jund in me that chooses this card. And again, underrated is always relative. I don't know, but I haven't seen anyone playing this card, and I haven't seen anyone yelling about this card. But to me, Riveteer's Charm is just insane. This card is just insane, and I'm not seeing it pop up, and that surprises me. I thought, like, day one, this card would be all over the place. So, Riveteer's Charm, to remind you, black, red, green for an instant. Choose one. Target opponent sacks a creature, planeswalker they control, highest mana value among creatures and planeswalkers they control. Or exile the top 3 cards of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. Or exile target player's graveyard. All of these are great. Like, so obviously the easiest one to talk about is exile a graveyard. When that's good, it's amazing. When it's not good, you choose one of the other modes.
Yeah.
Like, having this incidentally on cards is super, super powerful. So, Graveyard Hate on a card you would otherwise play anyways is what kills graveyard decks. They keep printing it, and it's still good. The first option is Soul Shatter, which people are already playing. This is already a card that people play just for that first option for 3 mana. It's not like this is more expensive. It's the same. And then the second option, you get to draw 3 cards? 3! Like, isn't this card just very, very good?
It is.
Like, all of these options are great.
They're all very good. They get rid of all graveyard decks, which is any sort of reanimation, Titan industry, whatever bullshit that happens to be around. Also gets rid of all the tenacious underdogs. Like, that's rough.
Yeah. Goldspan Dragon.
Goldspan Dragon gets killed from
option
this.
1.
Yeah. Draw into
And if you know
something.
your opponent's not do anything, exile 3 cards and play them. It like even does a little bit of a Showdown of the Skalds impression there.
Yeah.
This card's just very, very good. I expected it to be in all of these Jund mid-range decks, and I haven't actually seen anyone cast it. So.
Nope. I've seen it in draft, and it's been rough. Just someone soul shattering you, and you're like, "Fuck, are you serious?" Like that has been rough. It's also good in draft to get rid of the threshold thing.
Counters.
Yeah, and the shield counters. Yeah, get around it. You like, oh, Sanctuary Warden. Bye bye. Sorry about it. You're you're screwed. So, yes, I like this card. It's a good card. Craft these. They're uncommon. Just take them. Just get them.
Yeah, just make them.
Yeah, might as well.
I think this will see play in older formats too. It's just too versatile.
Honestly,
I could see playing this in Explorer.
Yeah, all of the charms, like they're uncommon. It's amazing. Just get all of them. I almost like a lot of them. I was thinking about for all these different lists or tiers or whatever. So just honestly, just craft them all. They're great. I like them.
Yeah, you will not be short on uncommon wild cards if you just play enough.
Yeah. So there you go. Woof, Jeff. I think it's time for last call.
Yeah.
So as always, we rate our beers on a scale of bronze to mythic, and this has nothing to do with the tier that you are in currently, but it is obviously a fun way to rate beers. So we like to do it this way. But bronze beers are trash. They're horrible. They're so bad. You have to pour them out, and you can't even finish drinking them.
Silver beers. These are macro brews. Generally fall in this category, but they're beers that don't have a bunch going on. They're kind of stock.
Yeah, gold beers are fine, but you probably won't drink them again.
Platinum. These are ones you will drink again. They're good.
Diamond beers are exceptional. You would recommend these to your friends, and you buy these often.
And mythic, of course, the absolute best of the best. These are the ones that you drive out of town for. These are the ones that you recommend to everyone and anyone who would listen. These are top tier.
All right, Jeff. Do you know what you're going to pick for this evening? Which beer you have online?
I think so.
All right.
I think so.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. From
All
underneath. Hey! What?
Yeah.
I am so surprised. You did not want the Imperial Chocolate Porter. You picked the double IPA that I brought. Interesting.
So where should we start?
Let's start with you, because I'm so interested to know why you picked the double IPA.
Okay, so this was me trying to... What's the right word? This is trying to me like... This is me trying to... Sorry, I've had 19.1%. This is me trying to account for my own personal style preference. So I'm naturally going to enjoy a porter more than I'm going to enjoy an IPA, even though I really like IPAs. I think probably my end result is that this is a better double IPA than that is an Imperial Porter, even though Imperial Porters are almost always good because you're putting a lot of time into making them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is like a relative to the competition kind of rating. And so this just has a bit more to do with from underneath not hitting me as hard as I wanted it to hit me. Whereas All Things Die kind of had the opposite effect a little bit. I just saw, it's in 8.1%, double IPA. I've had this time and time again. And not that it blew me out of the water, but it came in a little hotter than that. My expectation was, run-of-the-mill, same thing I've had a million times before, and I think it was a more solid example of that than... I was underselling it a bit with that expectation.
Nice. Very interesting to hear. Just because when I was... I agree that Imperial Porters are usually something that I would lean closer towards before a double IPA, but I was thinking with this 8.1% on this double IPA, I was going to be maybe a little bit more smooth sliding into it, and it felt a little bit more abrasive and not really what I was hoping. And it ended up being like a little. It kind of threw me off a bit, and I was a little just kind of disappointed. I think I was hoping it would be a little bit smoother and juicy, and it was very just like punchy, I guess.
Yeah, I think it kind of like they don't really clarify what style they're going for.
Yeah.
But it looks like a sort of East Coast style IPA that has that fruity juiciness to it, but it doesn't really taste like that.
No.
But it certainly looks like it when you pour it out. You're like, oh, it's an East Coast IPA.
But it doesn't have, it has like strong hop flavors, and it has dried my mouth enough that I can taste that kind of bitter notes. In no sense that I think it was bad. I just, I think there's definitely double IPAs I like more than it, and I don't disagree that it's well made, but I didn't really enjoy it as much as the other one. So
yeah, I mean, I was gonna joke that we've said a few times on this show, but I like the Imperial Stouts and Imperial Porters. No surprise, I like a similar thing, but I want it to punch me in the mouth when I first got it, and I was like, the second beer punched me in the mouth more than the first beer. So it's like, maybe it was just giving me what I felt like I was missing from the first one. Kind of
maybe
my rating a bit too, but
yeah,
I'm not going crazy here. I think All Things Die is probably platinum, but
yeah.
So that's why I was saying it was more just like from underneath, not meeting what I was hoping for, and more than this beer blowing me away.
Yeah, honestly, I think All Things Die for me felt very like I'm gonna give it gold. I didn't like it that much. I was kind of bummed. I have another one, so I was hoping I'd like it a lot, but no, it's
always the beers you get two of.
I know.
Like, oh, man.
And it's totally fine. Obviously, it's beer, and I'll drink it, but it's definitely not one that I'm going to remember and want to go back and get another one. And just jumping into From Underneath, this one felt a smoother. So obviously, we were looking for different things and different.
It is very smooth. Yeah.
Which I enjoyed the flavor, but I'm also just going to give this platinum. I thought it was solid. It was a good beer. And I liked drinking it, but it's definitely not my go-to Imperial Porter in no means.
Yeah, I'm going to give it platinum as well.
Yep.
I think I was just hoping for like, because a lot of the beers that crack Mythic are these Imperial Porters and stuff. And so my expectation is almost like Diamond versus Mythic for these kinds of beers. And so within my first sip, I was like, this is probably platinum.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way, where it's like, oh yeah, this is, and now I don't know if it's because it comes in a can or whatever. Some, it's hard because sometimes when you open a bottle, you're like, there's something special about this. But we have tasted.
But we wanted to start with this one so that it opens our palate, right? Because that's what one of the best things these beers do, and then it just didn't really because it was so smooth.
Yeah. So our third moon tap takeover is coming close to an end. There's a possibility we'll have some more next week, but we haven't decided on that yet. But
hint.
We what? Sorry.
I said we're leaving some like strange hints for them.
Yeah, there are some hints, but if you've been here this long, you know that we leave some at the end of an episode. So, in any case, just some solid beers tonight. But
yeah,
I
don't want to reiterate like we talk like we're disappointed, but like platinum's a totally reasonable rating for a beer.
Yeah.
Right? So, we don't have to go through the whole scale again, but it's just like we were just expecting maybe a diamond and get a platinum, but it's still a totally enjoyable beer.
Exactly. I think throughout a lot of this brewery, to be honest, we've expected some more platinums and come up, or sorry, I expected more diamonds come up with more platinums.
Right.
So we've just maybe it's taking some time to reevaluate our system. But as far as this,
we started with the banana beer, so
that one was great. I liked that one a lot. So
that set my expectations in the wrong ballpark, I guess.
I think that banana beer had more going on with Indie Ale House than it did with Third Moon. Third Moon might have come up with the idea. But anyway, that is the end of our beer rating and our last call. So it is time for closing time. You can always find us at Arena Regulars on Twitter and Instagram if you want to tell us about more breweries you want us to check out.
Yeah, you can also look for us on MTG Arena itself under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
You can find me personally on Instagram and Twitter at Zulberg. That is Zeulberg. But Jeff, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter. That's at BluesBrewsMTG, spelled like it sounds.
Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review on Spotify. Go to all the places that you listen to us right now. Like us, follow us. Engage with us as much as possible because we would love to hear all of your comments and anything we can make, anything that helps us make the show better is something that we would really love to hear. So give us all your thoughts, all your feedback. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that you absolutely can copy an Obnixilis token with Azeka's Chariot.
Good night. All right, that's fine.